Charles I of England is a figure marked by complexity and contradiction. His reign was characterized by a steadfast belief in the divine right of kings, intense conflict with Parliament, and a series of political and religious upheavals that culminated in civil war and his eventual execution. His story is a poignant tale of a monarch whose inflexible views and actions led to his downfall and dramatically altered the course of British history. Charles Stuart was born on November 19, 1600, at Dunfermline Palace in Scotland, the second son of James VI of Scotland and Anne of Denmark. His elder brother Henry Frederick, Prince of Wales, was the heir apparent, and Charles was not initially expected to become king. However, Henry's sudden death, from typhoid in 1612, thrust Charles into the role of heir to the throne. Charles was a shy and reserved child, plagued by health issues and a stutter. He was deeply influenced by his father's beliefs in the divine right of kings, the idea that monarchs are chosen by God and accountable only to him. This belief would become a cornerstone of Charles's rule and a source of conflict throughout his reign. In 1625, Charles ascended to the throne following the death of his father, James IV, who was also James VI of Scotland. Charles inherited a kingdom rife with religious tension and financial troubles. His marriage to the Catholic Henrietta Maria of France further complicated matters, fueling fears of a Catholic resurgence in Protestant England. From the outset of his reign, Charles clashed with Parliament over issues of finance and authority. He believed in his absolute right to govern without interference, while Parliament sought greater control over taxation and governance. These disputes led to a series of confrontations and the eventual dissolution of Parliament in 1629. Charles embarked on what is known as the personal rule, or 11 years' tyranny, during which he ruled without Parliament from 1629 to 1640. To fund his government, he resorted to controversial measures like forced loans and the revival of outdated taxes, such as ship money, which provoked widespread resentment and legal challenges. Charles's religious policies, heavily influenced by his advisor William Laud, aimed to bring the Church of England more in line with traditional Catholic practices. These changes were deeply unpopular with the Puritans and other Protestant groups, who saw them as a step toward Catholicism. The imposition of a new prayer book in Scotland sparked the Bishops' Wars, 1639-1640. The Scots, who were fiercely Presbyterian, rejected Charles's attempts to impose Anglican practices. The conflicts drained the royal coffers and forced Charles to recall Parliament in 1640 to seek funds, leading to a new phase of conflict with the English legislature. The Parliament that assembled in 1640, known as the Long Parliament, quickly moved to address grievances against the king. It passed laws to limit Charles's powers, such as the Triennial Act, which mandated that Parliament meet at least once every 3 years, and the abolition of the Star Chamber, a tool of royal enforcement. In 1641, tensions escalated with the presentation of the Grand Remonstrance, a document listing grievances against Charles's reign and demanding further reforms. The king's attempt to arrest 5 leading members of Parliament in January 1642 was a turning point, revealing his intent to crush parliamentary opposition by force. The country was now on the brink of civil war. In August 1642, Charles raised his standard in Nottingham, signalling the start of the English Civil War. The conflict pitted royalists, or cavaliers, who supported the king, against parliamentarians, or roundheads, who sought to curtail his power. The Civil War unfolded in 3 main phases. First English Civil War, 1642–1646. Early battles, such as Edgehill and Marston Moor, saw fluctuating fortunes for both sides. The parliamentarians, led by figures like Oliver Cromwell, eventually gained the upper hand due to their disciplined new model army. Second English Civil War, 1648–1649. Despite a brief period of peace following Charles's capture in 1646, his refusal to negotiate and efforts to incite further conflict led to renewed fighting. Parliamentarians decisively defeated the Royalists. Third English Civil War, 1649–1651. After Charles's execution, Royalist supporters continued to fight under his son, Charles II. The final defeat of the Royalists at the Battle of Worcester in 1651 ended the wars. Captured by the Scots in 1646 and handed over to Parliament, Charles continued to plot his return to power. His intransigence led to his trial for treason in January 1649. The court, asserting that the king could be held accountable by his people, found him guilty. On January 30th, 1649, Charles III was executed outside the banqueting house in Whitehall, London. His dignified comportment and steadfast adherence to his beliefs in his final moments garnered him sympathy and a degree of martyrdom among some contemporaries and later historians. Following his death, England briefly became a republic under the Commonwealth and later the Protectorate of Oliver Cromwell. This period saw significant political and social upheaval, but ultimately failed to establish a stable, lasting government. The monarchy was restored in 1660 under Charles II, marking the end of the Republican experiment. The tumultuous events of Charles III's reign, his execution, and the subsequent civil wars left an indelible mark on the English political landscape, shaping the future constitutional monarchy. Charles III's life and reign are a study in the complexities of power, governance, and personal conviction. His unwavering belief in the divine right of kings and his inability to compromise with Parliament set the stage for one of the most significant conflicts in British history. His execution was a watershed moment, challenging the notion of absolute monarchy and laying the groundwork for the modern constitutional state. The story of Charles the More serves as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between authority and accountability. A balance that continues to define the relationship between rulers and their people to this day.